there, this is Chad from Zombie Fight Shark, and today we are going to be going through EastWest loops. This is going to be a little bit different from some of the things I normally do. So EastWest, they make lots of digital instruments, some of which you can see on the screen here, but they also have a bunch of loops that they have released in the past and apparently have been releasing for the last 25 years. So their loop packages, there's quite a few of them, and I'm going to go over a bunch of the smaller ones that are in their 25th anniversary pack today, and they're listed on their site as being almost $50 a piece. So, before you buy it, if you want to hear some of it here, I'm not going to go through everything because there is a ton of material to cover, but I'm going to try to go through as much as I can. Let's dig in and see what we can hear. So what we're going to go over today, there are loops that are just loops. There are loops with stems. There are just drums. There's one instance of a very kind of limited playable instrument. And loops, stems, and then construction kits, as they're commonly called, where you have individual samples of drums and things like that. So let's start with the loops themselves. This guy here, we'll load the first one, and then we will do about. This is by BT. He's a producer, pretty famous guy. You can look him up. But yeah, Twisted Textures is aimed less at the dance floor and more at composers of ambient music and film soundtracks. So let's take a listen to some of these. And you can tell, so there's some fairly lengthy, some of these are, but yeah, they're for soundscapes. They're for color. They're, can be used in sound design of all different types. You don't get access to the wave on its own. You do have to use EastWest interface here, the play interface. So if you were thinking like it'd be nice to drop it into like a grain synthesizer manipulator where you can drop a wave in, not so much in this case. But there's a bunch here. So you got all kinds of things. I don't know if it's twisted or not, but it's definitely a texture. I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination. You can kind of see some of this being used as just kind of background filler. Like, especially with these are making me really think of like Netflix. They love a lot of their stuff. They'll have just kind of this nice stuff dropped in the background that is just for character. Let's see. This is Fear and Terror. Whole bunch of fear and terror on this one. Look at all those options. BT loves to make fear and terror sounds, I guess. And just the other side of the coin, let's just listen to a few of the happiness and accomplishment sounds. I don't know if that's happiness to me, but okay. Yeah, and see, some of them are just a note. They'll sometimes they'll just be a little note or a stab, but you can't change the pitch. You could if you playing with your DAW and really got in there and messed with it. It wouldn't be too hard to change the pitch. But But yeah, and of course you can apply this other stuff that you've got here to it. Let's keep moving on. So there's a lot there, obviously, and every one of these has, you know, they all have varying numbers of patches. So, you know, you've got a lot of patches, a lot of stuff to go through, a lot of loops to go through. So there's a lot of material there. Let's check out Hypnotica. So Hypnotica, a little bit smaller selection there. These are hard attacks. And just to do them right, so this is from Greg Hawkes, Cars and Perry Geyer, manufacturer. Hypnotica includes ambient atmospheres, electronic samples, hold, reverse effects, noise loops, underwater textures, electronic, ethnic voices, blah, 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 blah. You can pause it and read that there. So it's got a bunch of different kinds of sounds. Let's just listen to them. So all these, to me, kind of, you know, we're still, you know, really in textures more than anything. Let's check out rhythmic. So, you know, I mean, I'd almost say, like, this is almost like a sequel to Twisted Textures, because there's a bunch of stuff here that could be used as background, and you could use it on a track, you could use it in sound design. Let's see, slow attacks. Real slow attack. Let's just do a bunch of them at once. That's kind of a fun effect. So I think you get the idea with that. So some useful stuff there. So now we're going to check out scoring tools. And because I'm a composer and went to school for it, and I have strong opinions about these kinds of scoring tools, but if you're a working composer, I completely understand. Sometimes you have to work really fast, and that's where things like this come in handy. So danger in there. The danger is there. So you've got pretty much the same loop. You got variations of this different one where they've got elements removed. Not exactly stems per se, but similar. So you get the idea. Let's dark side. So again, it's a loop. And this is sort of getting into loops with stems. You've got it's like you got in some cases you have a variation, some cases it's like you have the stems, but of course you don't have all of them because there's a lot of instruments there. Very respectable sounds though. Let's highlight this guy. Yep. Okay. so again, we're not going to go through all of them. Star Engine. Strauss War. Yes, it doesn't make me think of war, but... Tango Happy. The Arrival. THX me. Not what I think of when I see THX. I think of THX 1138. Hopefully that gives you an idea, though, of kind of what is in that package and what are they, you know, you got a bunch of stuff. So you can see how, you know, they all of these, they're made to fit together. You can do a lot with it pretty fast. So those are the ones that are just primarily loops. So of the ones I've explored thus far, playable instruments. So this is guitar and bass. And so this was a little bit different. So let me just load it and so you can see for yourself. So they're older, and this is, I think these were just pre-interface. So the idea was you just had these playable samples, and they were good samples. I'm just guessing on that. It's just triggering one sample. So I'd put them in the category of they're playable instruments, and they're just on a limited basis. And as you can see, you have a ton of different categories. So, yeah, you know, it's a playable instrument. It's just kind of like old school one. And back in the day when they were making these, if they're 20 years old, then these were pretty high quality because there was a lot of garbage out there. So finding good stuff was hard. And, you know... They're decent samples. So let's keep moving. There is one of these here that's just drums. So we've got these dirt breaks. And so you just have breaks. And again, these are by BT. And you got all these different BPMs. And these are good beats. So, you know, you get the idea. All the way up to 180. Let's hear that one. Yep, okay. A little drum and bass there. Taking me back to college. So, yeah. It's a weird mix, you know. Some of these, you got one sample, and some of them you get a couple, and then some of them you get a whole bunch. And so it's worth mentioning that with some of these, you can change the tempo. The engine that changes the tempo is built into Play, so it's not super flexible, to be honest. This is 140 BPM. If I go down to 130. And then it's got this kind of weird, like, okay, just do half. Or it's got the other one, double it. So you have the option to change your tempos on these. It's just not the best stretcher out there, so just be aware. But in terms of beats, they are respectable beats, in my opinion, because BT is a very successful producer. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, that's the Breakz, the Breakz with a Z. So let's look at some of them that have loops and stems. And so you get with the next few we're going to go over, you get the loop, and then you get it broken down into stems. And again, you've got a whole bunch of choices, and you've got and you can use your pitch or your tempo. You can match the tempo there. Just kind of do it. Just pay attention when you're doing that. Anything there? Oh, yep. Way underneath there's something. So some of them are dated, but even though they're dated, there's still kind of something to use in everything. So yeah, I mean, I would say yeah, that one's pretty dated. But yeah, there's something you can reach in there, and a part of the loop you can grab out of it for sure. Let's check out Electronica. Ambient space. Makes me think of Africa Bambata. And again, I mean, there's a lot. So just all these different ones. And I guess every one of them doesn't have all the stems, or every one of them, some of them might just be a drum beat. Like some of them are just like, it's mostly percussion. Kind of an interesting breakdown. So it's Electronica. I think you get the idea there and what you can do with it. Smoov Grooves, is this one. Is there anything interesting about? From the rhythm section of Prince Michael Blinn and Sonny Thompson comes Smoov Grooves, containing all the loops you need to lay down everything from slow grooves to 70s funk. This is the real deal from one of the top rhythm sections in the music business. So here you do have a construction kit, and you do have your stems. That is a Smoov Groove. Nice. So your construction kits there's not a lot to construct there. So, just be aware. The limited construction kit, I would call it. So I think you get it. Those are definitely some Smoov Grooves. Now let's check out Symphonic Adventures. This is, so you got a little bit. This is kind of similar to scoring tools, and you've got stems, but occasionally, like there, you got a little stinger that it added and a little transition. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. You got Hitchcock. Which Herman, Bernard Herrmann, he scored. I think he did a lot of Hitchcock stuff. I mean, he's super famous for a lot of older movies, and his style has been copied by many people. If you watch go watch an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and you'll hear a lot of things that sound like Bernard Herrmann might have done. That's a fun little hit there. Oh, Schwarzenegger. Just got a real Predator feel to it. Get to the chopper! You get it. Let's see, suspense. It's just one suspense here. It's suspenseful. So, like I said, this is kind of, it's like the scoring tools. It's definitely more fun to play with than the scoring tools was. And you get a little bit more flexibility. I'll go back to what I said before. If you're in a situation where you need some cues quickly, then this is a respectable option for sure. I mean, I kind of wonder like how many of these cues have been used in movies, because I'm sure movies or TV. Like, I don't doubt it in the least bit. Let's see, film orchestra effects. Evil mind. Don't listen to him. He has an evil mind. Did you hear that? It's got a Matrix feel there. That's nice. And then you've got key switch combinations. Yeah, you get it. I mean, you could with a little bit of learning, a little bit of knowing what you were playing with, then you could use those key switch combinations decently. You got a stabs collection here. All the stabs. It's fun. Oh, and this is fun. We won't listen to the whole thing, but I just was like, what is this? And
welcome to Symphonic Adventures.
And then it walks you through a bunch of stuff. So anyway, I thought that was entertaining. Okay, so that's Symphonic Adventures. Let's take a look at loops plus stems plus construction kits. And we'll do drum and bass here first. And you can see just off from jump here, this is a little bit different. So you've got, you've got the loops. And then the loops have stems. And then you have the construction kits. And so I think every one of these is what you've got there. You have just so many choices. So yeah, you get that. Raver Slaver. So a little dated, but again, cool. So they gave you key switches on this one. That's kind of interesting. They have the key switches in flip position. So that's your I guess bass. Your bass is key switch, and then we got some more synths. So that key switch is, I guess, it's all of these different synth basses. And these are kind of all what you would expect. And they're not getting out of the box very much on those. Let's check out funky ass loops, because they are funky. I was impressed with the funk. That one's "Hey, That's My Drink." And then they give you, got your drum kit down there, construction kit, and I've had some pretty good luck in the past with taking construction kits, and for funk in particular, it really lends itself to like working. Like I've got some good beats that I've created where I used funk construction kits, and they just came out sounding great, even though it was like you only got one sample to play with, but it sounded awesome. You didn't even notice it. So. funky. It's the midnight hour, and we're getting funky. Tight little butt. How about back in the day? Some of the junk. So you get it. They're funky. Jointz. This one did not age very well, I will say. Still some stuff usable in here, but it's hip hop influenced, and hip hop just changes so frequently that some of these are just kind of quaint sounding. Some of them are just, they've got some real nostalgia to them, but again, you have the construction kits. So, it's not for naught, you can do something with it still. And then in this bundle, they give you extra kicks and snares. And by extra, they do mean extra. Lots of kicks and snares. Yeah, lots of kicks and snares. So there you go. There's Jointz. And let's look at Phat and Phunky. Loop kits and instruments. So there's an instrument, there's a bass. Yeah, you get that. So this is, they've given you loop stems and the instruments, but they're in separate places. So just a little bit different of a deal. So see, this has got all of our instruments, then it's got the actual loop. So you can play most of it. Play it. I don't know. Kit and loops, make it rain. Yeah, there's your construction kit. And there's the actual loop. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Little quaint, but usable. Again, I mean, the thing that can be said about all this is it is quality. So even when, like this sounds like, if you're younger, like my dad likes this kind of music, you can still do something with it. If you're trying to sell beats, then, this is the kind of thing where you can go in and just sort of dig. And this is, for people who work in the digital medium exclusively, this is the equivalent of crate digging. So, if you went to the record store and bought $50 worth of records, or you spent $50 and got Phat and Phunky and ended up with, 10 loops out of it, I guess where's the value? Which do you like more? And then they're nice enough to give you all these bass instruments here, all these different basses. And they give you the tempos that they're supposed to go with. But you probably noticed I got long notes, right? But then keep going, wait for it. So that's pretty weird. So when I hit it, it's like rotating samples or round robin or something. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long. And then after a point, it looks like they're all just short. So, weird little quirk. Good bass though. That's a good bass. All right, so last one we're gonna do on this this episode is Public Enemy, and this is when I saw Public Enemy, I was like, what? Let's load up Public Enemy. With this Beats and Loops collection, Public Enemy became the first major hip-hop act to release such a collection. The collection includes over 2 hours of beats and loops presented in construction kit format, fully mixed loops, and all the individual samples used to make up the entire loop, which was a new, I guess at the time, a new thing. So if you're a Public Enemy fan, and you should be because they're legendary, you know, this is retro for sure, but it's also pretty awesome. And one thing that can be said about good loops, quality production, is that it's relatively timeless. Like when we were going through the BT stuff earlier, like even though a lot of that stuff is dated, to me it's still very usable. And if you're thinking, when am I going to use a drum and bass beat, watch any cop show, CSI, you know, in a chase scene, like they use them all the time. Like they're all over the place in TV. And then the same thing with this. Like, when are you going to use this? And even if you don't need this whole loop, you know, because you're not doing something that it's relevant to, you still have all the construction kits. So, and then you have the stems from the beats. So you get the idea. And I mean, I think this one's awesome. Well, I mean, it's one of my favorites out of all of these, really. No justice, no peace. FBI tried to kill the dream. Don't get me started. So hopefully all that makes sense to you, and you hear something you like, and check out the EastWest website and see for yourself. So there'll be more of these coming up, but these were like the small packages, and some of these small, you know, this is a lot for, you know, so you're getting your money's worth for $50. I think you get your money's worth. And I can obviously just keep playing with these for a while. And I didn't really even get into the construction kits. The construction kits are very useful. There's something to be done there. So if you're a drum addict, always buying the drums, then yeah, check it out. And there's a lot to be had. There's a lot to play with. And I think it is very respectable stuff. So leave me comments, and if one of these in particular really jumped out at you, if you leave me a comment and let me know, and I'll try to profile that if I have time. Thank you for your ears and eyes, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.